can I go from your spirit? Any place that I choose to go, you're already there.
Welcome to Sandy Hill Stables Homestead. On our first video, I want to share info on gardening. While these won't necessarily be a how-to video, just an idea sparking adventure. We have experimented with hydroponics and aquaponics over the years and plan to get back into it again once we finish our greenhouse. But even with aquaponics on certain plants, it's hard to beat good old soil-raised foods. So we started several years ago with self-wicking grow barrels and self-wicking grow bags. I would like to discuss these two primarily in today's video. We began indoors this year by placing seeds into eggshells. My wife had seen this on Pinterest or Facebook, and so we thought we'd give it a try. So we took the eggs, carefully broke them in half, and then we took a Phillips screwdriver and drilled a small hole in the bottom of the egg. With a teaspoon, I added soil, just a garden mix that we had gotten from Walmart, and planted our tomatoes and peppers. First, I put the egg crates on heating pads, and then as soon as the sprouts started coming up, I put a 4-foot fluorescent grow light above them. I'm not sure we'll try to do these eggshells again, but I wanted to show them here. They worked very well. However, you must be diligent about keeping them watered. Sow very little soil, and they will soak up the water very rapidly. Watering is very important to me. It's one of those chores that if you forget, your plants do not appreciate it. So we will probably try something different than eggs next year or next time I do starter plants. So I transplanted these into grow bags. A lot of my ideas came from Larry Hall's self-watering guttering grow system. I highly recommend you subscribing to his YouTube channel. He also does the grow bags that I'm about to discuss into kiddie pools, but more on that in a minute. For the mix, I used Larry Hall's mix, which is basically 2 5-gallon buckets of peat moss, 1 5-gallon bucket of well-rotted horse manure or compost or worm castings, 1.5 cups of garden lime, 1 large coffee can full of perlite, or I use vermiculite, and 1 handful of Epsom salts. And he also recommends getting a 10-10-10 fertilizer. So we start with these 50-cent Walmart bags. I fold over the edges, help make it a little stiffer, and I mix this mix in a wheelbarrow and I shovel it into the grow bags. Pretty simple. Here's a few pics of us transplanting our little tomatoes and peppers into the grow bags. And here is all our transplants for this year into the grow bags. I just have them sitting on the mechanic trays just in case they leak water so it don't leak onto the floor. And we have the 4-foot grow light suspended above them. Hopefully after our last freeze, sometime around Easter, I'll plant them outside like this. This is actually last year's pictures. I'll place them in the kiddie pools. Now eventually I want to have troughs built all around my greenhouse, and I want to use this grow bag system all the way around the perimeter of our greenhouse. Hopefully I'll get that done one of these years and share that video with you at a later time. Another concept is our self-watering or wicking barrels. Simply I take the barrels and I cut them in half. This year, I drilled and tapped out this hole about 3.5 inches from the bottom of the barrel so that you could put a 1/2 inch mel adapter from the inside and it threads right in. But if you don't have access to a tap, you can do like I did last year and just put a lock nut on the outside like this. Then on the inside, put a piece of about 3-inch, 1/2 inch pipe and wrapped it with landscape cloth and zip tied it on, just to keep bugs from crawling in and out. I also had some scrap 1.5 and 2-inch PVC thin wall pipe, and I cut them about 18 inches long, which you would want to adjust based off of your barrel heights. And I also cut 4-inch sewer drainage. Mine happened to be 5 foot for the long piece and 10 to 12 inches for the small piece. I just wrapped them up in here till it fit tight, and then went ahead and cut it off, and then I made a whole stack of them. Both ends of the pipe, you can buy the caps, but that would get very expensive. So I took some more of the fabric, like landscape fabric. It could be plastic, doesn't matter, the pipe's going to leak water, but you could use a heavy duty plastic and zip tie them on just to keep the dirt out of the tubes. Once I got all those done, I then cut a slot in the top section of the pipe and fed the 1/2 inch into that hole, put the pipe in, spun it around, packed it in, and then approximately 90 degrees from the overflow, I cut another hole to fit the 1.5 to 2 inch Phillip tube and pushed it in there. I secured it to the side with zip ties, ran the zip tie from the inside so that it was a nice clean look on the outside. And make sure that you use UV protected zip ties, or next year you will be redoing this. So I took sand and filled up the bottom just about a 1/2 inch above the pipe, packed it in very tight, and then I was ready for my soil. I added my soil and then planted. We had bought years ago Mel Bartholomew's Square Foot Gardening book, and I use Mel's mix here, and we've had very good luck with this for the past couple of years. Here's some of the pictures from last year. And of course I let them be overrun with weeds. This is after about 2 years of growth. I decided to clean out the soil. I actually cleaned off the roots, picking the plant up and tapping it on the side of a 5-gallon bucket. I took that dirt and mixed it to make Mel's mix all over again. Mel's mix is 1/3 compost, 1/3 peat moss, and 1/3 vermiculite. So this year, after cleaning all the soil and dirt off of the roots, I slightly modified Mel's mix. Made sure I added 1/3 compost with the peat moss and the vermiculite and the soil I took out from last year. I mixed it up to make up the other 2/3, and I put it back into the barrels. This year I wanted to divide up the barrels into quarters and sort of have square foot gardening. It's slightly less than a square foot. Whatever Mel recommended in his book, we tried to go about 3/4 of that in each quarter. So I made this device. I took a 2x4, 23 inches long, cut a V groove in it, and in the very center I hinged a board, laid the pipe in there. I had a whole bunch of scrap electric fence pipe, heated it up, and folded this over. And when I was done, I had this PVC pipe that would lay flat if I crisscrossed them like so. Now we didn't quarter up all of our barrels. Some with the onions, we just let the pipe out. Some we put one piece of pipe in there and cut the barrel in two. But you get the idea. And this is our garden planted a couple of weeks ago. Now quickly before I leave, I wanted to show you another alternative to barrels. You can build a 2x6 frame and do the same thing. Let me show you what we did. Built up 2 2x6 boxes. I just had to measure so they would fit perfectly in this old antique bed frame. Covered it in plastic, laid the black pipe, just laid it in rolls all the way down. And I put 2x6s on here just to hold it down till the sand was packed in. Once the sand was packed in, I brought in the same Mel's mix, topped off the bed, had the grandkids help us plant, and my wife has this beautiful flower bed. I hope this helps and gives you some ideas for planting this year. Grow bags in the kiddie pool is the easiest, fastest, most spectacular way that I know of you can grow a garden. And we have 12 foot of sand, so I have a lot of soil amendments, and then it's virtually impossible to keep watered because the water will just go 12 foot down until it hits the first aquifer. So this was my options. I've absolutely fallen in love with them. Come follow along, and I'll send you updates as we make modifications over the next few years. Hope you enjoyed. I hope that it has sparked some ideas in your mind and given you options. I helped a gentleman plow a field with 2 mules, and I loved it once. So glad that I had the opportunity to do it once. We used to use tillers. We had an old red tractor that we would get stuck trying to till up the ground. We'd till up acres only to be overran with weeds. Growing in grow bags is wonderful. And you can watch Larry Hall's videos. Plants do wonderful. It's so easy to get your ground ready for next year, and yet your plants still taste wonderful. Anyhow, I hope this helps, and if you don't want to dig out your rototiller and clean out the carburetor and dig up a garden plot this year, but you want to do something, I highly recommend grow bags or the self-wicking barrels. Hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a shout. I'll help any way I can. Be safe and be good. God bless.